My name is Haley Comet and welcome to my Cosmic Corner of the Internet, where we discuss all things astrology, and today, all things Gemini full moon 2022 and you. What underlying irritations, frustrations, and conversations this full moon in Gemini is spotlighting within your world. We'll be breaking down collectively how the full moon in Gemini, which exacts December 7th or December 8th, depending on where you are located within the world, what collective themes are coming to the surface and what individual themes are coming to the surface within your life and within your chart. And I deeply recommend listening to the collective themes before diving into sign by sign, because it will provide a lot of nuance. Because when I tell you, my love, this full moon is at the exact same degree, the exact same degree as Mars retrograde. So this is essentially casting a gigantic spotlight on the Mars retrograde story that has been playing out. And then this lunation squares Neptune. So it is a dizzying, dazzling lunation. You're gonna wanna watch your impulses, watch your reactions, watch your anger, but also illuminate this Mars retrograde story within your world to understand how you can be working smarter and not harder. So we will be providing all the nuance, how you can celebrate this full moon in Gemini, how you can find where this Gemini full moon lands within your chart, and thus what themes it's bringing to the surface within your life, as well as house by house or sign by sign analysis, so you can really tune into how this energy is showing up within your world and how you can co-create with it. Before I dive into all of the dazzling but distracting Gemini full moon 2022 energy, I want to give a warm thank you to Magic Mind for collaborating with me on this video, and truly for collaborating with me on my life as I've been navigating this Mars retrograde in Gemini. This small but mighty productivity shot has seriously been my secret weapon during this transit, and I'll tell you why. So the biggest thing with Mars retrograde in Gemini that we need to be mindful of is distraction, especially with this lunation squaring Neptune, Mars retrograde in Gemini squaring Neptune. This is shiny object syndrome. This is being distracted. And this is a time, Mars is our energy levels, that we can have less energy at our disposal. So it's important to use our mental power towards what really matters. And to do that, we need to cut through the clutter and we need to stay on track and stay focused. And Magic Mind is designed to get your brain to work at peak performance. So obviously, the temptation with Mars retrograde is to drink more coffee because you are exhausted. But let me tell you what coffee does. Yes, it may make you more alert, but it actually makes your body produce more of the stress hormone cortisol, leading to more anxiety, which I don't know about you, but that makes me even more distracted all over the place, which we want to avoid during this full moon and during this transit overall. Coffee also isn't conducive for your sleep cycle, anything of that nature. And with this lunation squaring Neptune, we could be having some interesting dreams coming in. So you're going to want to be sure that your sleep cycle is on point and that you're using your waking hours to the peak of your brain's potential. So let me tell you how Magic Mind is different than coffee. Firstly, it has matcha in it. That's a healthier form of caffeine that has way more antioxidants. It's also supercharged with adaptogens, nootropics that support memory recall. It helps decrease stress and inflammation within the body. And my loves, it is cold and flu season, and this productivity shot also has vitamin C, which supports your body's immunity. So not only are you allowing yourself to focus, but you are doing your body a favor. Rather than drinking more and more coffee and feeling more and more anxious and restless, Magic Mind gives you a healthier form of caffeine that truly helps your body with the antioxidants, with the immunity, with your brain power. It allows you during this full moon to really cut through all the clutter, all the distraction, all the conversations. We know Gemini is the chitter chatter, social butterfly energy of the zodiac. It helps you cut through all of that to focus on what truly matters, which is a huge focal point of this full moon. So for me personally, this full moon, as well as Mars retrograde in Gemini, lands in my 10th house, which governs career, public persona. And I've noticed I've just had less energy to give towards my career. I've been feeling more and more burnt out. I've been observing how unsustainable the hours that I've been working have been. And I've had to exert my energy more mindfully when it comes to the hours that I'm working. I was observing I was working very long hours, but not very focused hours, right? Like I would do a consult, scroll on TikTok, film a video, go on Instagram for an hour. I wasn't being very intentional with what it was that I was giving my energy towards. So during this Mars retrograde, it's made me really look at my working world and ensuring that the actions that I'm taking are working smarter and not harder, right? And ensuring the hours that I give towards work, I am fully there. I'm not getting distracted. I'm in flow state. Really focused when I'm tuning into this video, really focused when I'm working on horoscopes and all of the different facets of it. So I'm grateful for this full moon, and I'm grateful for Mars retrograde for making me look at that, for making me look at the big picture of what it is that I'm working towards, and ensuring that I am working towards my goals, but not in a way that is depleting my body, right? Like I could have gone into this transit and forced myself to work longer and longer hours, drinking tons of coffee, but it's really been showing me how deep I was digging into my energetic reserves, right? And how all of that coffee wasn't helping me really restore my energy levels. It was just kind of making me more and more anxious. So I'm very grateful for Magic Mind in supporting me, for allowing me to be in flow state when I'm working, so I can give myself more time off, more time for long walks, more time with my loved ones, more times for my hobbies. I've been doing more things around my house because the Sagittarius sun is in my 4th house. So lots of DIY that I've been pushing off. Like as soon as work slows down, Mars retrograde made me slow down my work, and I'm really grateful that Magic Mind is still keeping me on track for what truly matters while cutting through all of that, those small tasks, all of that TikTok scrolling, all of the Instagram DMing that really isn't helping me achieve the big picture, right? It's just a lot of distraction. So very grateful to Magic Mind. I recommend getting a pack. You can use my code COMET20 to save 20% off your order of Magic Mind. And without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, my love, so let's talk about what this Gemini full moon is bringing to the surface collectively. So Gemini is the sign of the social butterfly, right? It is the messenger of the zodiac. So this full moon, there can be a lot of mental energy, there can be a lot of verbal energy, a lot of social energy, a lot going on. And it's really important to cut through the clutter of all of the excitement or all of the distractions to make sure that you are attuning to what truly matters. And we'll deepen that notion in a moment, but I want to give you more texture around this lunation. So the Gemini full moon exacts December 7th at 9:42 p.m. PST. So if you are anywhere in the world that's more eastern than the west coast of the United States, it'll most likely exact for you early on December 8th. And this full moon lands at 16 degrees Gemini. So the moon's at 16 degrees Gemini and the sun is at 16 degrees Sagittarius. And this axis is a fascinating balance of knowledge and wisdom is how I like to think of it, because the lunation in Gemini is a very logical sign. It's very social. It's very curious. It looks at every situation, every person as an opportunity to learn, right? It's a very social butterfly energy, which is certainly going to ramp up. I mean, it's kind of before the holiday season, but kind of ramping up this desire to want to socialize, want to connect. But it's being balanced with the Sagittarius sun. Now, Sagittarius sun is about the acquisition of wisdom, which is different than knowledge. You can practically know something, but Sagittarius is about having faith and more so believing in something, right? And also having that authority to go out on your own and stick to your own beliefs or your own morals. Like Gemini is a sort of energy where it's open to everybody's way of thinking, learning from everybody, whereas Sagittarius is sort of the energy around having a sense of conviction as it relates to our own beliefs and being willing to go off on our own adventure or go off on our own way in order to acquire more wisdom and a personal sense of truth and meaning. So it's this gentle blend around where is it that we're feeling called to attune to, what it is that we believe in, our morals, our values, how it is that we're living in accordance to that, while also balancing that out by being open to other people and how it is that they perceive this world and what it is that we can learn from them. So there's a fascinating story there. So it's this fascinating balance between standing within our own moral convictions, being open to what it is that we believe and feeling anchored within that, while also being open to other people's truth and learning from others, as well as learning but having some discernment when it comes to the messages that are coming in. More on that in a moment. So this lunation lands at 16 degrees Gemini, and so you'll want to see where that is in your chart. I'll show you a tutorial momentarily about how you can find that as as well as how to find which house it is landing in. But let's deepen the nuance with the aspects this full moon is making. So this full moon conjoins Mars retrograde exactly. Now, this is a defining feature of this lunation, right? Because Mars is our energy levels. It's also action. So we can find during this full moon that we are a little bit more emotionally erratic. We are a little bit more impulsive. We can find that with our words, there's a lot more mental energy. Our mind could be going crazy, overthinking, as well as while there could be a very social energy, there could be a bit of argumentative energy as well, wanting to debate, wanting to test people, right? Like Gemini can be a playful energy, but there's a danger at this moment of taking things too far, or maybe having Twitter fingers and tweeting something crazy towards somebody else. Really important to be mindful of our emotional impulses and reactions, especially since we don't have the full story at this moment. So this lunation squares Neptune. Neptune deludes, Neptune fogs, Neptune confuses. So we're not getting the full story. Gemini is the messenger, and there can be a danger around we're reacting to something that we don't have all of the nuance around, right? That's why this axis, it's this balance around being open to messages, obviously being open to learning from the world around us. With the Sagittarius sun, really important to have discernment. Does this feel good to me? Does this align to my instincts? And it's really important during this lunation to cut the clutter, right? This full moon is conjoining Mars, so it's really shining a spotlight on how it is that we've been using our energy, how it is that we've been reacting, how it is that we have been processing and dealing with our anger, right? And there's this fascinating story playing out around seeing is not necessarily believing, right? Like the Gemini moon, something might be logical or be told to you, but that doesn't mean that it has truth. Sagittarius sun, especially when we consider that this axis squares Neptune in Pisces. So Neptune dissolves, Neptune deludes, Neptune confuses. So there can be a message coming out and something that you feel called to react to, right? It's conjoined with Mars, but the truth hasn't come to the surface yet. So that's why you're being asked at this time to hold your tongue, hold your thumbs, hold your reactions, allow the truth to come to the surface, because the full story hasn't been told yet with the square to Neptune. There's a smoke screen on this full moon. Now, there is sort of a helping hand with this lunation, since it is trining Saturn in Aquarius, which is providing this grounded, logical reasoning, right? And it's also like the way that I envision it is like Saturn holding Mars back, like being like, be cool, just calm down. Like, I'm not saying there's not going to be things that are going to rile you up. There's going to be things on social media. There's going to be things in the news. You're going to feel riled up, but I want you to take a beat, okay? Attune to Saturn, ground down, rather than being quick to respond, quick to reply, quick to speak back. Take a moment to check in, take a moment to fact check, take a moment to ground down. Really be mindful of your impulses, particularly when it comes to any sort of verbal, mental altercations, because the true story, the full story, likely hasn't come to the surface yet with this square to Neptune. So let's break down some ways that you can celebrate this lunation. Okay, love. So this is a social butterfly sort of full moon, okay? Gemini is all about chatting and connecting. I do want you to be mindful if you are around people during this time, like knowing it's on Mars, being mindful if someone's riling you up. Get some distance. Again, we're balancing this Gemini desire to want to connect and socialize with Sagittarius. There's a reason Sagittarius is associated with the traveler, the adventurer, right? It's not that Sagittarians are loners, like quite the opposite. Sagittarians are often life of the party, but there is this desire around for us to find wisdom and to find that kind of discernment around what aligns with our belief system. There is sort of this desire to take a journey, right? Take a voyage. So I also want you to lean into that during this full moon. Like, certainly spend time with people, be open, connect, collaborate, all of those things. But also, before reacting, before making any significant decisions, make sure you attune to your intuition, because you can logically hear something. If it doesn't sit well with your spirit, take a moment, tune into your intuition, take a step back. tune inward. Wait for that inner cue around this feels right, this feels good, this feels in alignment, right? It's important to balance. So I do recommend socializing at some point. I recommend getting your social butterfly on, go to a new club, get in a new environment, connect with some new people. This is a time to celebrate socializing and feeling connected to humanity, especially with the trine to Saturn Aquarius. Get in some new environments. Resist the temptation to drink or indulge too much to get more comfortable within them. This lunation does square Neptune. And I also just want you to observe your impulses. If you're feeling a call around you're at this chess club and you want to debate this person, take a second, mind your impulses. And if it's not the right environment for you, get out of there. Like with Sagittarius, be open to exploring, be open to spontaneity. I do recommend, since this is a Mercury ruled full moon, it can be really powerful to work with words, whether it's journaling, observing what's coming to the surface. I recommend meditating with the square to Neptune. Your dreams can have lots of messages for you. Your spirit can have lots of messages for you. I would recommend taking a little detox from social media during this time or from the news. Like you can find there's going to be a lot of messages, a lot of news, a lot coming to the surface, and it feels with the square to Neptune, not a lot of it is true. Okay, so I just want you to be really mindful around things that rile you up or any sort of like outrage marketing. Like call your power back, take a step back from engaging too much online. As with the square to Neptune, there can be a smoke screen around the messages that are coming out during this time. So very important to have discernment. Also random, but Gemini is associated with your siblings, so could be aligned to spend some time with them. But truly any sort of connections, I want you to be open to connect with individuals, like such as the nature of air signs, you know, this Gemini lunation trining Saturn Aquarius, this we're all in it together energy. Like going on our own adventures is all well and great with a Sagittarius sun, but oftentimes other people can have knowledge and insights for us, and that comes via sharing with all sorts of people. And that's what we love about Gemini energy, is this eternal student, how there's no snobbery to this energy. It sees everybody as an opportunity to learn, to get closer to something that personally aligns with them. And that's really the energy of the Gemini full moon. Can we play with other people's truth without feeling like we have to shapeshift towards it? Can we hear other people's messages or the messages that come through with the news and still take that beat to attune to, does this feel right? Does this feel in alignment with my intuition? Balancing wisdom with knowledge, learning from others as well as attuning to our own personal truth and standing in conviction to that. This is the axis that we are balancing during this lunation. And important to keep in mind, this axis has to do with adventure, novelty, so can be very aligned to go on some sort of trip, get some new stimuli, talk to some new people. It is a full moon in an air sign, so it could be aligned to hike, feel the wind on your skin, something of that nature. Be open to new experiences, be open to new heights, be open to new views, be open to new connections. This is a lunation all about, can we be open but still use discernment? Especially with these adventures, I would love to see you do something active as it is conjoin Mars. And I would love to see you do something spiritual since it squares Neptune. So something mindful, meditation class, yoga class, something of that nature. So you may be asking, okay, Haley, that's all well and good, these themes of knowledge and wisdom, connection and collaboration, but what themes are coming to the surface within my world? I am so glad you asked, my love. That's where we'll want to get into where 16 degrees Gemini lands within your chart. And oftentimes when I say that, people are like, well, I don't have any Gemini placements. That's not what we're talking about. Everybody has 16 degrees Gemini located somewhere within their chart. Because essentially, when you look at your chart, it's a snapshot of the sky, right? So even if you don't have any placements at 16 degrees Gemini, that is a sector of the sky, and it'll land in a house for you, which is the life arena that this lunation is bringing to the surface. So option one, if you are a newer astrology student or you get overwhelmed when you think about degrees, all I want you to do is find your ascendant or your rising sign, it means the same thing, and look below. You'll see I have some timestamps, and you'll jump to the timestamp that has your rising sign. So that'll align if you're new to astrology or if you use whole sign house system. That's a perfect option. If you use Placidus, I do as well, you'll want to get specific about where 16 degrees Gemini is located. So here's what you'll do. You'll go to astro.com and find your circle chart. I want you to find the Gemini symbol. It looks like this in astro.com. It's like kind of a yellow-orange color. And what I want you to do is I want you to find in that outer ring, that Gemini symbol, and then find the beginning portion of it. So you can find it by looking for the Taurus symbol. So that's the green circle with two little horns. Find where that is, and the line that borders that Taurus symbol, the green little bowl looking thing, and the Gemini symbol, you'll want to find that line. And that's where 0 degrees Gemini starts, because Taurus is a sign before Gemini, so where Taurus ends, Gemini begins. Okay, so that, my love, is 0 degrees Gemini. So you found the Gemini portion of your chart. So I want you to observe that icon on the outer ring. Then follow the inner ring and you'll see little numbers on the inner circle. So option 1 is to just listen to both readings. So let's say that you see that that symbol expands to both the 4th and the 5th house. You can just listen to both the 4th house reading and the 5th house reading to see which themes resonate more so within your life. Or let's get specific and find where 16 lands. So these little marks, the little one designates increments of 5, the larger one's increments of 10. So it goes 5, 10, 15. Now we know 16 is right after 15. So once you find that second small little tally mark, so not the second big one, the second small one. So that's the 15, because again, increments of 5 are little, increments of 10 are the larger ones. We'll know that around there is where this lunation lands. So in this example that I'm showing on screen, we follow the inner ring of around that location and we see it falls in the 5th house. Let's say that it's so close, we really can't tell. We're like, ooh, 15 is like right in between these two slices of pizza, these two houses. In astro.com, there will be a button at the top that says PDF additional tables. Click there. And on the right-hand side, it'll show you a breakdown of where each house begins, okay? And so I want you to find that symbol, the Gemini symbol. And we see within this example, okay, well, the 5th house starts at 15 degrees Gemini. If this lunation is at 16, 16 comes after 15. If the 5th house starts at 15, we know that 16 degrees Gemini, thus this full moon lands in my 5th house. Thus, I will listen to the 5th house reading from Haley Comment. So let me know if that made sense. Happy to support you within the comments if it did not. But now that you have found which area of your chart and of your life it is activating, let's get into a house by house analysis. So if this Gemini full moon lands within the 1st house of your astrological natal chart, this reading is for you. You may potentially be a Gemini ascendant, but not always. So make sure to go by the reading of where you have 16 degrees Gemini if you use Placidus house system. Okay, my love, so this illuminates the 1st house of self, of identity, of who it is that you are. And with this axis, it's sort of illuminating this balance around what it is that other people want you to be versus who it is that you are. And it also kind of illuminates people who could be authority figures or trying to tell you what to believe or anything of that nature. And it feels like you sort of calling your power back, right? Because this lunation gathers with Mars, which has been most likely moving retrograde through your 1st house. So it is this energy. You can feel that you're feeling more drained and you're having to be a little bit more discerning about who you're giving energy towards. If people are trying to tell you how to live, what to believe, I want you to gently call your energy back during this time. I want you to remember your power during this time. This won't resonate for everybody, but I do want to highlight with this squaring Neptune, being mindful around people projecting things onto you or wanting you to be certain ways. This energy where it's like, I'm not going to fit into your box. Like, something that we love about Gemini energy is their openness, right? Their curiosity. So observing what situations and what environments and what people you're around that make you shrink into yourself, that make you less of yourself. And certainly try not to, clap back, like it conjoins Mars. So you can notice you're a little bit more feisty, certainly. But I just want you to call your energy back in more subtle ways, right? Putting more energy towards yourself ensuring that you're putting your limited energy, remember Mars is retrograde in your first house, towards what truly matters to you and away from the expectations around what people want you to be, right? And I want you to be okay with being disliked at this time, okay? People aren't seeing you super clearly at this time. If you have this here, you most likely will have Neptune in the 10th, and you could be seen by others as being a little bit more feisty. And people always think you're feisty and ferocious if you don't play into their games or their attempts to manipulate you, right? And I want you to get comfortable with standing up for yourself. Again, not too erratic, not too impulsive. With this full moon, there definitely can be an instinct to clap back immediately. Call your power back. Stand your ground, okay, in respectful ways. So maybe it's not being like, how dare you force me to go out, da, da, da. Maybe it's just saying, I'm not going out, I'm staying in. Here's the reasons why. They try to force you. Nope, standing in my power, standing in my power. My energy is sacred, my energy is sacred. Because first house has to do with our physical energy. So this lunation on Mars is making you realize our energy is limited and our time on this earth is limited. And so we cannot just give it to everybody who asks for it, right? Willy-nilly. Like, we have to really be stingy with it to ensure that we're giving it to ourselves. So you, my love, if you're feeling burnt out, trying to be everything for everybody, I want you to call your energy back. Be enough for yourself. And it's okay if people say, oh, she's rude. Like, people will say all sorts of things when you're not accommodating your boundaries for them. And this lunation is really bringing to the surface what you haven't been expending energy towards, and putting more of it towards yourself, calling your energy back if you have been trying to be everything for everyone, my love, everything for your boss, everybody for your loved ones, anything of that nature. Be enough for yourself, okay? I also want to say, go easy with working out, okay? This won't be a message for everybody, but with Mars retrograde, try not to push yourself, try not to overextend yourself. Look at what it is that you've been, working out or working on, and trim it down. Like, you don't need to push your body to the limit every single time. Like, certainly with Mars retrograde in the first house, it's a beautiful time to rethink, your physical activities, things of that nature, but be mindful of before overexerting yourself. With this full moon on Mars, it can bring that to the surface. Like, definitely prioritize working out, expending your energy in sustainable ways, and being okay with being seen by others as more feisty and ferocious. And it's okay to be the villain in people's story. Everybody's gonna be the villain in somebody's stories, and everybody will call you a villain if you do withhold your boundaries when people are accustomed to, you negotiating them for them. But this is the time to really stand your advocacy, and there is a time to advocate for yourself in a respectful way. Definitely check in with your impulses. Moon on Mars, we could be more, our Twitter fingers could be a little faster, our tongue could be a little faster. Take a beat, you can hold that space, you can hold your energy, you can advocate for yourself in a respectful way. And that's what this full moon is bringing to the surface for you. And outside of just pushing your body, this can illuminate, hey, my body feels drained. I feel exhausted. Is there a way I could be using my energy smarter within my physical body? Like maybe going for walks rather than draining yourself at 6 a.m. with really hard workouts. Maybe you don't exercise at all. And this energy around, would this help my energy levels if I got more walks in, if I got more Pilates in, or whatever the exercise that you feel drawn to? Definitely something to consider with this lunation. So love, if this Gemini full moon lands within the second house of your astrological natal chart, you may potentially be a Taurus ascendant, not always though. So make sure to listen to the reading of where you have 16 degrees Gemini. So for you, this is illuminating money and self-esteem. So a lot of you have been being asked to be a little bit more mindful as it relates to your money and ensuring that you are working smarter and not harder, okay? So some of you have been impulsive spenders, not all of you, but most of you will likely be Taurus ascendants, and we all know Taurus risings like things a little bougie, but this is sort of bringing to the surface, okay, what are ways that we are spending money that aren't really serving us, that aren't contributing to our big picture, trimming the fat of your budget. So this could be a really aligned time to go through your subscriptions, go through your monthly costs, like really gain mindfulness over your financial habits, right? This lunation is bringing to the surface, where is it that we're having to work harder and earn more because we're spending mindlessly, right? And really attuning to it. Like, is it going to delivery? Is it going to getting a facial every other week? Like, again, it's not about not spending money. We need to spend money in this world, but it's ensuring that what you're spending money on is supporting your big picture. And what I mean by that, if you love getting facials, if that brings you joy and happiness, do it. If you have no interest in learning to cook and delivery lights your soul on fire, that's amazing. I just want you to look through the things that are not contributing to it. Like, I don't know why I keep spending all of this money on A, B, and C. It doesn't really contribute to my big picture, right? Trim the fat of your budget, because with Mars retrograde, we have less energy. So you can notice you're less motivated to go after new deals if you work in sales, or you feel less motivated to get another stream of income or anything of that nature. Maybe it's not about needing to earn more and more and more, but maybe it's just maximizing the money that's already coming in by ensuring that you are budgeting, investing, and putting towards what genuinely lights you up, right? I also want to highlight second house, beyond just money and finances, my love, this is also self-esteem. Okay, some of you have not been prioritizing yourselves. You've not been standing up for yourselves. You have not been seeing the value in yourselves. And this is a lunation that it's like kind of reclaiming your roar, honestly. And again, being mindful with impulses, impulse shopping, anything of that nature, I just really want you to be cautious of. But it's also an energy where people have been like trampling over you and you have not been valuing yourself. This is a lunation to remember your worth and then add tax. So for some of you, maybe a way that you can approach your finances smarter is asking for a raise. Maybe that's what this full moon is bringing to the surface. There also can be conflicts around money, you having to stick up for yourself in order to get the money that was owed. Be mindful before, penning a very colorful letter or text to someone. Like, ensure that you are really conveying yourself intentionally. Like, definitely stand up for yourself, especially if someone owes you money or there's been disputes about someone paying you back. Stand up for yourself, but use your words intentionally, right? Don't just lash out. And there is a little bit of delusion and confusion with this full moon because it does square Neptune. So maybe you're having a hard time really deciphering your worth. Maybe you're having a hard time really clarifying, what should my rates be? And I want you to be open to asking for support. Like, the Gemini energy is all about being curious, about being open. So maybe it's meeting with a financial advisor to trim the fat of your budgets, as I highlighted. Maybe it's meeting with some colleagues in your field to seeing what's an appropriate rate that I should be charging. Maybe it's asking your mentor, hey, I feel stagnated within my role right now. What will help me increase my income? Being open to ask people for support and ensuring that you're approaching it mindfully. Take a beat before spending money during this time. I'm telling you, love, and face it head on. I know sometimes it could be scary, like finances can bring a lot of anxiety to individuals, but the more that you avoid it, the more power it has over you. So this is a time to look it square on, observe your impulses, and trim the fat to ensure that your finances are really building to the big picture of what it is that you want to create. So if the full moon in Gemini, December 7th, 8th, lands within the third house of your astrological natal chart, you may potentially be Aries ascendant. Not always though, so make sure to listen to reading of where you have 16 degrees Gemini if you use Placidus house system. So this lunation is drawing a spotlight to the sector of your chart that governs the mind, that governs your immediate surroundings, that governs neighborhood, and essentially it's casting the spotlight on your communication practices, okay, love? So this is a fascinating full moon because it's really asking, how is it that you stand up for yourself and speak your truth? And while it is this illumination of that, I do want you to be mindful. Check in with Mars retrograde. Like, this is definitely a lunation that feels like it's going to bring to the surface some thoughts of yours, some people that you want to make sure know the thoughts that you're having in that head. And while it is a time to hold your ground, to advocate for yourself, to speak your truth fiercely and ferociously, not impulsively. I want you to speak it mindfully, okay? This lunation feels like an energy to mindfully consider how it is that you are standing up for yourself or not. And this can be, an energy where you aren't advocating for yourself. Let's say you have this amazing product, you have this amazing service, but you don't feel comfortable telling people about it on social media. This lunation where it's like, put yourself out there, right? Have that. Mars is how it is that we advocate for ourselves. So it's not always having to defend ourselves. It's also like letting people know, hey, I'm here. Hey, I'm a thing. I sell this thing. Like, it is energy around standing up for ourselves, making our presence known, right? For some of you, you can find, like when it comes to speaking your mind at work, there can be an energy where you haven't felt as comfortable speaking out or haven't been as comfortable leading or advocating for yourself. You can be biting your tongue or not really sharing your true perspective. And this illumination that's really bringing that to the surface. This won't be a message for every single person, but for some of you, there can be a conflict with the sibling, some sibling trauma coming to the surface. Keep in mind, Mars is retrograde, so it can be sibling trauma from the past arguments, past frustrations, as well as past experiences that made you feel like you had to bite your tongue, like that you had to be enough or be liked by everybody. Like that can also be coming to the surface at this time. And I really want you to limit your social media usage. This is in your third house. There can be social media squabbles, anything of that nature associated with this full moon. Make sure that you are using social media, that it is not using you. As I highlighted, this is the sector of marketing and sales. So for some of you, you can be feeling shy or not wanting to put yourself out there. And this is a full moon to ensure that you are giving energy to that. But with that being said, if you're noticing a lot of time, a lot of energy, or that it's significantly affecting your mind, this is a full moon to really observe it and to use it mindfully, because it is squaring off with Neptune, which is in your 12th house, which has to do with our subconscious processing. So for some of you, I'm really feeling that social media has been creating some detrimental effects within yourself, like so much so that you're so attuned to all these micro messages that you're forgetting to take a beat back to attune to your own intuition in solitude and anything of that nature. And this is a full moon to really mindfully look at, am I using social media? Or is it using me? And also devoting some energy towards what it is that you want to learn as well. Third house is our interests and things of that nature. So being open to learn. It's also our neighbors. There could be neighbor squabbles building. Squabbles amongst extended family members, siblings is all third house themes. And for some of you who are in certification programs or in school of some sort, with Mars retrograde, you can be having to really use your energy mindfully. Like when it comes to studying, observing how distracted you are. Like this is a full moon to really observe your mental processes, how it is that you are standing up for yourself as it relates to communication. If you are spreading the word about your services or anything of that nature online, but it also brings to the surface how it is that you are learning more impactful ways to learn, as well as how to maximize your brain power, right, within the third house. So love, if this Gemini full moon lands within the 4th house of your astrological natal chart, you may potentially be a Pisces ascendant, not always though, so make sure to listen to the reading of where you have 16 degrees Gemini. So love, you are tapping into your inner roar and how it is that you can own that inner roar without it owning you. Here's what I mean. So 4th house is emotional state. So with Mars retrograde, you're having to get comfy cozy with anger and realizing it's not a bad thing to be angry. For some of you, especially with the Pisces ascendant, you've been told that being angry is bad and you've been suppressing it and holding on to all this stuff. Well, it's coming out during Mars retrograde. You're realizing it's not sustainable to hold on to this stuff. But I'm not saying explode at everybody. I'm saying deal with that anger in a practical and constructive way. Rather than letting it simmer, putting on a happy face, just being like, it's fine. It's asking for you, how can you deal with conflict in a productive way so you're not holding on to it? Maybe it's doing a kickboxing class and getting that energy out of your body. Maybe it's screaming into a pillow. Maybe it's verbally talking to people about it without raising your voice, like holding a very respectful energy about it. It's asking you to look at anger and how it is that you use it within your daily life and if it is serving you, right? Now, for a lot of you, this full moon can be marked with a family argument. It could be a disagreement of something more recent or from the past. Mars is retrograde. And again, I would deeply recommend not being impulsive about it, okay? You can have anger and you can hold anger. You can be a container for that brief emotion without needing to act on it. And with Mars retrograde, I would deeply recommend, if you feel yourself getting too heated, take a moment, say, hey, I can't talk about this right now. I need a moment. Take that beat. Gain that clarity before moving forward. See if you can use anger as data around how it is that you guys can move forward rather than simmering and staying in that rage. Does that make sense? I feel called to share with you about sacred rage, this idea that it's okay to be mad, like be mad about the right things. And when we feel like, no, you got to just be happy and grateful, like we aren't giving ourselves a space to live within the polarity, within the extremes of our emotions. So yes, it's okay to get angry. It's okay to want to advocate for yourself. It's okay to want to stick up up for someone in your family. It's okay to want to stick up for yourself when it comes to your living situation, love. That's also 4th house. So for some of you, there can be a landlord dispute that reaches a high around this lunation, a roommate dispute that reaches a high, issues around maintenance. Mars is advocacy, so you may have to advocate for yourself in regards to your living situation. And again, using anger as fuel, like rather than simmering and holding on to that frustration, using it to productively make your home a better environment. So rather than just stewing in anger, she left out the mayonnaise again, my roommate or whatever, like using it to fuel a productive conversation. Like, hey, can we talk about condiments? How can we move forward here? Now, I do want to let you know, you can be feeling kind of run ragged at this time because this axis is illuminating work and life. Essentially, or your home-work balance. And a lot of you have been really busy trying to be everything for everybody, right? And this is a time to really step into this form of radical, self-care, taking care of yourself, also observing anger as data in terms of if you've been feeling burnt out where you are like testy and irritable and snapping at people, maybe it's because you're not grounding down and giving yourself what you need. Again, when we suppress anger, just like put on a happy face, we forget that anger is trying to tell us something. It's trying to tell us where our boundaries have been crossed. It's trying to tell us where we haven't been giving to ourselves in comparison to work. It's trying to tell us where it is that we've been overexerting ourselves. Honor where you're feeling frustrated this time. Don't act on it quite yet. Again, have that clarity before moving forward, but honor what that anger is trying to show you about your home life, about your own emotions, about your family, and about your living situation. So love, if this Gemini full moon lands within the 5th house of your astrological natal chart, this reading is for you. You may potentially be an Aquarius ascendant, not always though, so make sure to listen to the reading of where you have 16 degrees Gemini. So my love, this is activating this sector of fun, of self-expression, of children, of dating. And one thing I want you to tune to during this full moon is whether your fun activities give you energy or take it away. For example, let's say you always love partying, but you're observing around this full moon, hey, I wake up exhausted and I don't feel very full of life. Right? Like it feels like it's taking and draining me more than it's adding to it. Or let's say when it comes to dating, you're running yourself ragged trying to go on all these dates, or you're involved in a situationship that's taking more than it's giving. With Mars retrograde, it has been energy where we have less energy at our disposal, and with it moving through your 5th house, you're observing that your time that you spend towards fun is limited. So you're really wanting to ensure that you are being given back energy, all the energy that you're expending, right? Now, this can be timed with some sort of argument, okay? Whether it's someone that you've been dating, whether it's a child of yours, there can be this energy around simmering tensions coming to the surface. And like I've been advising with Mars retrograde, not a great full moon to follow your impulses. Like there will be a temptation to lash out, to stick up for yourself. Like certainly notice where your boundaries are being crossed, where you feel like you're not getting energy back, but you don't need to sink to that level. You don't need to bark and bite back at everybody. Just observe. Just say, hey, I've been in these party environments and I feel drained, or hey, I'm dating this person. I don't know if this is aligning to me. Like observe the data that's coming out this full moon without feeling like you need to react or make a decision right away, right? It's also reviewing as it relates to any sort of romance thing. Mars is our physical activity in that way as well. So you could be reviewing that arena of your life, certainly as it relates to your intimate connections, observing if it is working for you, if there's any dialogue needed to make it more fulfilling for you, anything of that nature. And I also want you to be open towards creativity. You can find that your anger can be a great fuel in order to create more art if you are someone who does identify as someone who is creative, anything of that nature. And with this, I want you to be mindful around doing anything impulsive. Like a lot of you guys have been really burnt out. Like if you have this, you most likely have Saturn in the 1st. Like you guys have been having a lot of transits and you can have less time and energy to give towards the fun aspects of your life. And there almost feels like this energy where it's like life has been all work and no play. So when it comes to the play, when it comes to the party, you really approach it with this like intense, impulsive energy, and just being mindful around going to excess, because this lunation does square Neptune with Mars. This can be subject to, party arguments or gambling or doing things impulsive just because your life hasn't been balanced, like it's been a lot of hard work, a lot of you have been really burnt out. So it's like when you get a moment to have fun, it's almost like you want to go to excess towards it, and observing that and being mindful with it. Does that make sense? And I also want to highlight being conscious that you are giving energy towards yourself, things that make your inner child feel happy, right? Like sometimes we're working all the time and it's like we have a Friday night off and we're like, yes, I'm gonna go hard. And then you realize this isn't giving me energy back. Like maybe you would be happier if you just stayed in and painted. Maybe your version of fun is shifting. Allow it to shift. That's what Mars retrograde is trying to bring to the surface. If this Gemini full moon lands within the 6th house of your astrological natal chart, this reading is for you. You may potentially be a Capricorn rising, not always though. So make sure to listen to the reading of where you have 16 degrees Gemini. So love, you are being asked to work smarter and not harder. Again, that's a huge theme of this full moon overall, is how it is that we've been using our energy and how we can be using it wiser, how we are getting distracted by chasing the wrong things with a square to Neptune, and how we can cut through the clutter to focus on what really matters, right? For you, it just feels like you can feel like you've been running like a chicken with your head cut off, like doing all of these things, but it's not really attuning to your big picture around what it is that you are wanting to build or create. Some of you, not all, have Saturn transiting the 2nd house, so there can be this energy of like scarcity that you're feeling around finances, and this tendency around, I need to be doing more and doing more in order to earn more. Like I want you to slow down, feel that temptation to speed up, to do all the things, but choose to slow down. Ensure that your actions are intentional. Sometimes, doing one thing really well and intentionally is better than doing 6 things halfway out, right? Like I just want you to be conscious of your workday and where it is that you are being distracted, or where it is that you are being pulled by all this trivia that doesn't really matter to your bottom line of your business or of your job or anything of that nature. I want you to review your workday. This would be really aligned to get more intentional and more mindful around where your hours go. So for some of you, you can be feeling called to time block. I know not everybody is into time blocks or to-do lists, but I deeply recommend it. Like I want you to observe where your time is going and start to use it more intentionally to focus and hone in on what really matters. Cut through the clutter. Like with the square Neptune, there's always going to be something that feels so enticing, or want to start this new project before finishing this one. Handle what's on your plate and observe where your hours and minutes are slipping into. What's distracting you? What are the time wasters, right? Like when I was talking about this transit, like what are the extra tabs in your brain that you need to cut out? And this lunation is bringing to the surface what truly matters if you can cut through that clutter, right? I also want to highlight 6th house is our health, okay? So for some of you, there can be a call around wanting to put more energy towards your health. With Mars retrograde, some of you have been feeling less energy to work out, to put towards your nutrition or anything of that nature. And this full moon is asking for you to balance it out, right? Like for some of you, again, not all, but Mars is linked to inflammation. And some of you have been running yourself so ragged that you can be sick right now or dealing with burnout, like just feeling drained within your physical body. So a lot of you are being asked, what are ways that I can support my body, mind, and soul in supporting me day to day, right? So some of you can be feeling called to take more supplements, attune to your nutrition, work out, whatever is going to support you, right? And allow you to use your energy more mindfully and intentionally. Be mindful as it relates to snapping back to coworkers. There's definitely this aggravated vibe when it comes to people that you hire as well. You can find that you are more testy, you're more frustrated. Your fuse is like more ready to go, right? So really important to mind your anger. Okay, take a deep breath, maybe have a stress ball at work to squeeze it during this full moon, because you can find you're extra distracted and it's gonna take extra effort to cut through the clutter to attune to what matters. This fight with Lydia at the workplace does not matter. Attune to what matters and cut out the distractions. If this Gemini full moon lands within the 7th house of your astrological natal chart, you may potentially be a Sagittarius rising, not always though. So make sure to listen to the reading of where you have 16 degrees Gemini. So for you, my love, this is this illumination of your relationships. And I'll be forthright, a lot of you have been dealing with extra testiness, extra frustration within your connections. If you are in a relationship, you can find that the two of you are just like at each other's necks, just super frustrated, super ready to go off and lash out. You can find that the two of you are dealing with past conflicts. that you guys haven't totally processed. Like there is just a vibe where things are a little bit more testy. It certainly can be like hotter. There could be more banter. There could be more intimacy, certainly, but there's also more frustration. Things are running a little warm in that sector of your life. So just very important during this full moon. You know, it is a passionate influence, but it could be passionate to the sense of like wanting to fight all the time and then making up. Like just being conscious around not picking fights during this time, checking in. What is the deeper issue? Are you really mad that they put the silverware away like that? Or are you just frustrated that they're not listening to you? Like see if you can cut to the deeper issue rather than fighting about every little thing. Like it is productive around having those conversations, but I want you to have those conversations and fight forward, okay? Like rather than stewing in the conflict, I want you to see if you can notice what's coming to the surface and get to the underlying. Like what are you truly feeling and how can we solve the root issue rather than all the symptoms? Like the silverware being put around wrong and the cans not stacked right. Like those are all symptoms of the underlying problem that you feel like your partner's not listening to, right? This lunation is bringing that to the surface. And for some of you, you can be processing some X stuff during this. Like you can be really processing some underlying angers and resentments that you have towards your ex and how that can be infiltrating your romantic future. Like a lot of you have been hanging on to all of this resentment or anger that it's hard for you to build a future romantically because you're still stewing off the past. You're still frustrated over the past. And this lunation might represent how this is holding you back. For some of you, yes, you might be reminded of an ex, see them on social media, dream of them, or something of the nature that makes that energy apparent within your world. Some of you will reconnect with them in person. It's not saying that you need to run off into their arms into the sunset. I always say with Mars retrograde, when things come back, it's because we haven't fully learned the lesson. We haven't fully gotten that closure around that sector of our life. So if you do hear from someone from your past, observing what is it that I need to heal here, or what anger am I still holding on to, anything of that nature. Outside of that, there can be an energy around reviewing any anger that you have when it relates to romantic relationships. It can be illuminating any frustrations that you have towards business partners, any sort of one-to-one context within your life. This full moon is spotlighting, and it's really spotlighting resentments, and I don't want you to stay in that resentment. See if you can bring that energy to the surface. Notice what it's trying to teach you. Rather than just being angry and being impulsive and being mad at everybody and just hiding away this full moon, I want you to observe what's getting to the surface, what's getting you mad, and how is it being reflected to you via other people? And what's the underlying message here? What is it that can solve this issue? What is this frustration showing you? Because anger is emotional data, just like every other emotion, and it can be reflected to you within other people. Like what is aggravating you about other people during this time can be reflecting something that you need to learn about yourself. So rather than just being super feisty and clapping back at everybody that you see, observe, I'm getting really triggered about the way that you're doing this. I wonder what I haven't healed within myself. Taking that beat to look inward rather than exploding externally will be very helpful during this transit. If this Gemini full moon lands within the 8th house of your astrological natal chart, you may potentially be a Scorpio ascendant, but not always. So make sure to listen to the reading of where you have 16 degrees Gemini. So my love, this is illuminating this sector that governs merging and trust, right? Trust in your partner and trust in the universe. So for some of you, if you have a business partner, a spouse, anybody that you share finances with, this can be a time of squabbles and disputes. You can find that your partner is being a little bit more impulsive as it relates to your finances, and it could be very frustrating. This certainly can lead to conflicts around how it is that your guys' money is being spent. There can be frustration slowdowns when it comes to support that comes your way, whether it's from a partner, from any sort of inheritance, investment, alimony, child support. 8th house governs other people's money and how it flows to us. And these slowdowns can lead to arguments and frustrations, right? And for some of you, this full moon can be casting a light on how it is that you guys are handling the shared finances can be a symptom of a greater problem. Like, for example, let's say your partner is spending a lot of money and you're like, what are you doing? You're being careless. And perhaps during this full moon, you guys can realize, hey, they're doing that because they feel neglected by you. And spending your guys' shared resources is a way that they can get your attention. Like sometimes how it is that you two process your shared joint finances can be a symptom of a deeper problem. And whenever we talk 8th house, we've got to go deep. Now, for some of you listening, you don't necessarily have have shared finances, you don't necessarily have a business partner. 8th house governs more than that, my love, because 8th house is also how it is that we merge with the universe. So this represents what comes after life. I'm not saying that's happening at this time, but it is asking you, how safe do you feel to trust? Because a lot of times with Mars retrograde, it's asking us to use our energy more mindfully and intentionally, right? And a lot of you have been running yourselves ragged, trying to control everything. And this is the energy where you can find that you're being hit by more frustrating blockages and you're having doors slammed in your face and you're feeling all of this resistance. And I want you to observe that, because that frustration can become to the surface and you could be wanting to dig your heels in and go harder, but maybe the universe is trying to lighten your load. Maybe you've been trying to do this project, it's not working, but the universe is like, no, just wait, trust me, I have like a perfect solution coming in 2 days. Like, follow your energy during this time. Also observe like where you're feeling resistance. Like maybe there's an easier way to do things. Maybe you can choose easy, right, during this time rather than running yourself ragged. I also want you to observe during this influence. Intimacy can certainly come to the surface, that within all of its forms, but also just how safe you feel to let people trust. Maybe where you're running yourself ragged is trying to do it all and not asking other people to support you, right? Trying to be the one who can, I've got it, and advocating for yourself. And maybe this Mars retrograde is showing you, hey, it makes it a lot easier if you allow other people to lighten your load, whether it's let the universe help you by observing your energy, or even like asking people for help, asking people to support you, whether it's financially, emotionally, any way that support can reach you. With this Mars retrograde, it's asking, can there be an easier way for us to work smarter and not harder, right? So observing these lenses, and as well as making sure that you're expending energy towards what it is that is intangible within your world, right? Your spiritual realm, what it is that you feel transcends reality, transcends your tangible experience. With Mars retrograde, you can be finding that there's a lack of energy to pursue your material goals, but a call to spend more time as it relates to your spiritual initiatives and endeavors. And those are just as valid as anything else that you give to. So my love, if this Gemini full moon lands within the 9th house of your astrological natal chart, you may potentially be a Libra rising, not always though. So make sure to listen to the reading of where you have 16 degrees Gemini. So this lunation lights up your higher learning, right? This is your sense of faith within the big picture. And with Mars retrograde, you could be having to rethink it. You could be having some squabbles that relates to your spiritual community, your religious community. And with this lunation lighting this up, it's asking you to call your power back away from other people trying to tell you what to believe, and to attune into your own intuition, your own sense of faith that guides you, your own big picture that gives you a sense of hope over your reality. That's what this lunation is asking you to return to, and being cautious around where it is that you feel called to go on a soapbox or trying to tell other people to believe what it is that you do, right? With 9th house, it is the house of meaning and truth, but with Mars, there can be a desire to want to advocate or fight with other people about, my truth needs to be your truth. Honor the God or the wisdom within each person, like certainly honor it within yourself, but also honor other people's prerogative to believe what it is that they want to. Not everybody's going to see your point of view. Whenever I think about this transit, Mars retrograde in Gemini in the 9th house, I'm like, I don't know if you guys have just been more heated as it relates to debates or just what's happening in the news or something of that nature, but a lot of times you can't change people's minds. All you can do is be a way shower. All you can do is anchor into your own, truth. Hold space if someone asks you about it, but also notice where you are wasting energy trying to debate or trying to get other people to see your perspective. Call your energy back. There also is an energy to, see the forest and not the trees of your world, and give more energy towards big picture rather than the minutia, right? Like with Mars retrograde in Gemini within the 9th house, a lot of you are being asked to return to your big picture. Maybe you're getting so frustrated by religious disagreements or spiritual disagreements, getting in random fights on which TikTok or wherever you're finding these spiritual communities that you're kind of like butting heads with or experiencing frustrations with. Are you getting so tied into these conflicts that you're forgetting the meaning of it all, right? Your own spiritual connection. Like, call your energy back. Notice what is sort of diverting you from what really matters. Some of you are not feeling it there, but you're feeling it more so as it relates to your higher learning, as it relates to school. There can be a lack of motivation as it relates to school. You can be butting heads with professors or anything of that nature during this lunation. Again, mind your impulses. Some of you can be traveling or be experiencing delays with traveling, experience arguments when it comes to traveling. Ensure that you're not giving too much energy into the petty disputes that are coming up at this time, that you're not contributing to the big picture. What it is that you're learning at this time, what it is that you're believing at this time, where it is that you're traveling at this time, the dreams that you have for traveling, that's something to celebrate during this full moon. Seeing the forest and not just the trees of where it is that everybody has you effed up. Love, if this Gemini full moon lands within the 10th house of your astrological natal chart, you may potentially be a Virgo ascendant, not always though, so make sure to listen to the reading of where you have 16 degrees Gemini. So firstly, same, hey there twin. Secondly, my love. You need to do less. You need to go slower in order to go faster. A lot of you have been chasing all of these endeavors as it relates to career, and you've been so busy that you're not attuning to the big picture. You've been burning yourself out. Your workload has been unsustainable, and this full moon is the reminder of such, okay? It is better to do one project very intentional and very well rather than trying to do everything. For some of you, if you work at a job, you could be finding that you're saying yes to too many people. Oh, I can take that on. Oh, I can learn that. No problem. And this full moon is illuminating, hey, my energy is limited and I need to give it towards the projects in which I can learn the most, because it is in Gemini, and what I can give my all into, okay? If you are self-employed and you are trying to do all the things, launch all of the things, and you're feeling this energy around, I've got to do it all, I'm running out of time. My love, what is meant for you will not pass you, okay? Use your energy intentionally, use it mindfully, and understand, even if you're a Virgo ascendant, which many of you are not a superhuman, okay? Your energy is limited, especially during Mars retrograde, and you need to use your working hours as mindfully and as intentionally as possible to be able to build the big picture of your business rather than chasing all of these things, right? You cannot do it all. And this Mars retrograde and this lunation is making you very aware of that. And especially since you most likely have Neptune in the 7th house, a lot of you are really struggling to put up boundaries as it relates to other people, okay? You can be having a hard time putting boundaries as it relates to family members, with the sun being in your 4th house. And this is a lunation that's really asking you to be a little bit more fierce around, my schedule does not accommodate that, okay? And really breaking down, where is it that I want to go, right? Within the big picture, because this isn't the house of work. Okay, it's not the house of the actual workload, it's the house around what it is that you are known for. So if you are known within your company as the person where it's like, oh, just give it to them, they've got it, no problem. Like, it's not good to be the one that other people can always rely on and who's always helpful. Like, it's important to have boundaries. It's important to really be able to give to your work-life balance, right? And if you are known as the one, just give it to them, they always get it done. It's like, that's not so good if it's coming at the detriment of what it is that you need at that present moment. Like, this is the time to have stricter boundaries when it comes to others, as well as when it comes to yourself, around what it is that you're taking on and if it's contributing to your big picture. Let's say at work, you always take on all these sales, tasks, but truthfully, you want to build a career in more so the marketing role, like taking the projects and side tasks that more so relate to where it is that you want to go, rather than trying to be the one that you can rely on. Everybody can rely on me. This is the time to be a little bit more fierce as it relates to boundaries. Now, this is a sector of authority figures, so some of you could be having disputes as it relates to a boss or anything of that nature. For some of you, being mindful around what it is that you are sharing on your company social media, anything of that nature. It can be a bit argumentative there around how it is that you're perceived, but just really important to hold firm in your boundaries around what your schedule can accommodate, choosing tasks and projects intentionally based on where it is that you want to go, where you want to take your business if you're self-employed, where it is that you want to move up in your company. Maybe you're not working your dream job, but staying focused on, I'm saving for what it is that I want to go towards. Like with Mars, it's a pullback of our energy. So maybe you're at a job where it's like, love, it's just paying the bills. It's not like I love it, but attuning to the big picture around, okay, I'm not feeling super jazzed right now, but I'm working at this so I can save up, and then I'm gonna go here, and then I'm gonna go here. Planning the next steps, okay? This isn't the time to make major shifts as it relates to career, but this lunation can be bringing to the surface, how is it that we are using our energy currently within our career that's gonna get us to where we want to go. If this Gemini full moon lands within the 11th house of your astrological natal chart, you may potentially be a Leo rising, but not always. So make sure to listen to the reading of where you have 16 degrees Gemini. So this is the sector of friendships. So you guessed it, my love, there can be just some disputes with your friends, okay? There can be arguments. You can find your friends are more testy. You can find you are more reactive. Like Cynthia makes a joke and you're like, what'd you mean by that, Cynthia? Like definitely observe these impulses. Like I've been saying, your anger is telling you something. Like I don't want you to lash out and react, but I want you to observe. Like being like, Cynthia always pokes fun at this area of my life that I'm very insecure about. I wonder why she does that. Or maybe Cynthia doesn't even realize. And you can say, hey, Cynthia, I'm noticing you always make fun of me for this. Is there a reason? Like observing the triggers, and rather than lashing back and like seeing that level, kind of taking that step back, using it intentionally, stepping back and be like, because like I said, we don't have the full story with this lunation. It's squaring Neptune. So it can be something that's said to you, whether it's in real life or digitally. 11th house also speaks to large audiences or online communities, anything of that nature. Observing it and noticing where the trigger comes from. Maybe there's a certain trigger when you notice two of your friends are hanging out without you and you're like, why am I so triggered by this? Oh, because I introduced them and I feel left out. Like sometimes what it is that we are reacting to is really the tip of the iceberg. Like there's underlying emotions that we need to sort out. So it's like if we lash out about this, we're not getting to the bulk of what's frustrating us. So when it comes to your real friendships, being open to say, hey, this kind of frustrated me, rather than lashing out and being aggressive, saying, hey, this kind of annoyed me. Now, I will say there can be a review of past arguments. Mars retrograde does deal with things from the past, as well as perhaps a reunion with a friendship. But it's really important if you do hear from a friend from the past or anything of that nature, that you're taking that space to go deep, to realize, hey, what frustrated me about this connection? What was our falling out about? Can we rebuild? Like using this kind of blast from the past to kind of move forward rather than just sinking back into that same conflict and triggering one another in the same ways. Now, I do want to highlight 11th house is hopes and dreams. So for some of you, there can be a remembrance of, hey, I used to so want to be a tap dancer. Why have I not made time for that any longer? And this full moon reminding you to expend more time and energy towards that. For some of you, there can be a energy around being very frustrated online. Definitely watch your Twitter fingers, as 11th house is large audiences, things of that nature. There can be a more reactive response online, more outraged, and just making sure to tune in. Sometimes it is appropriate to advocate. Sometimes it is appropriate to stand up for ourselves when it comes to our friendship groups or online communities, but just make sure you check in before lashing out. So my love, if this Gemini full moon lands within the 12th house of your astrological natal chart, this reading is for you. You may potentially be a Cancer ascendant, but not always. So make sure to listen to the reading of where you have 16 degrees Gemini. So you've been burnt out. You've been tired. You've been sleepy. And this lunation is bringing that to the surface because you've had the planet of energy in your hidden house. So if you've been feeling more drained and exhausted and having a lack of motivation, my love, you are in tune with the cosmos. And are you leaning into it, or are you forcing yourself through it? Because like I said, not everybody will be a Cancer ascendant, but if you are a Cancer rising, you are meant to work cyclically. Like you are not meant to work like everybody else does. Like with Cancer, you're ruled by the moon, so you can find, you are a little bit more in flux. You can get random bursts of energy. You can find you're more affected by the seasons, by the lunar cycles, things of the nature. You're more attuned to the rhythms of the universe. So I want you to notice if you're feeling drained, like are you fighting through the burnout, or are you honestly giving yourself this space to rest and to rejuvenate? Are you bulldozing to the next thing and the next thing before catching up on the past things? Like really observing that, because where this is transiting, it speaks to your underlying subconscious processing, and Gemini has to do with messaging. And I feel that some of you are very harsh on yourselves. Like you tell yourself, you're so lazy, you got to keep going, you got to keep going. And this Mars retrograde is saying like, you're not lazy. You just need a second. You need a second to nurture yourself and nourish yourself, right? Maybe your workload hasn't been sustainable. And finally, the universe is giving your body this moment to like catch up, right? Like you can be finding that you're sleeping more, you're feeling more called to spend time alone. Are you giving yourself that? Because this lunation is activating it. And I also want you to notice your anger, because a lot of you have been suppressing it and suppressing it and suppressing it and suppressing it. And this full moon is illuminating it, right? Because 12th house is a house that we don't often deal with. It's sort of like the skeletons in our closet, the sludge of our chart. And a lot of us don't go there. And for a lot of you, you've been putting your anger there. So you've just been holding on to all of these things that are frustrating, but you've also been putting your power there. Like you've just been taking it from other people. You haven't been advocating for yourself. And again, there's something to be said if you're feeling drained and exhausted and you don't have it in you to fight. But I also want you to observe where it is that you are letting your boundaries be crossed or not advocating for yourself, right? Maybe you're feeling this burnout because you're not saying no to things, or you're not being rigid about what it is that you can take on and what it is that you cannot take on. That's a huge theme here. You can be dreaming about things that are frustrating you, or about, honestly, like men or masculine themes from the past. And I want you to lean into this divine opportunity to rest. I want you to lean into this divine opportunity to spend more time in solitude, right? A lot of you have been running, always wanting to be around people or have lots of data or distraction around you in order to avoid what it is that you need to deal with. And this can be a very healing lunation to really face what it is that's aggravating you, as well as reclaim the space to be alone, right? To dive into your own mind, to understand all of these underlying messages that have been trying to reach you. But again, this is the house of wisdom that comes to us in stillness and solitude. So it just feels like a lot of you have been running because you don't want to face what's underneath. And this lunation is asking you to deal with it head on. So my love, this is such a powerful full moon that's really asking us to observe the Mars retrograde story overall, what it's showing you about how it is that you've been exerting your energy, how it is that you've been processing your anger, and if it's been intentional, if it's been mindful, if it's been working for you, my love, because this full moon, it can trigger some people. It can really illuminate angers and frustrations that have been building the entirety with the Mars retrograde. But like I've been saying through this video, anger can provide valuable data. It can provide valuable insights if we're able to go deep to understand, why am I being triggered? Why do I have this impulse to lash out? Like, where is this coming from? When you take that moment to understand the message, again, it's in Gemini, underneath the anger, you can find there's lots of valuable insights that are coming to the surface. So my loves, my Instagram handle is @HaleyCometAstrology. My TikTok is the same. I would love to connect with you over there. Let's chat about the Gemini full moon. Let's chat about Mars retrograde overall. Let's chat about Magic Mind. Whatever you want to talk about, I am here to support. And I want to thank Magic Mind again for sponsoring this video. You can use code COMET20 to get a hand on yours. I'm telling you, no joke, it has been so helpful for me during this Mars retrograde in my 10th house, which has been quite the doozy. So until we meet again, drink lots of water and stay cosmic.